Hey guys, this is Pablo with Meditation Amsterdam, and in today's video I want to talk about the idea that we have a prerogative, a certain degree of free will that we keep exercising in order to disconnect or avoid discomfort, and how the continuous exercising of that prerogative makes us in essence avoidant, and how we can learn to be more engaged towards experiencing discomfort, and that heralds the end of the egoic identity. Now, before I dive straight into the topic, I want to give a quick shout out to everyone who decided to buy the new embodiment course, which I launched this week. The description is in the, the link is in the description, and the course is only $7. So if you think the topic is interesting, then just have a go in my Patreon page. And so if we go back to the original topic, I have a certain degree of understanding now of how this happens. And I think it's important to always start there, because we can sometimes tend to feel either guilty or ashamed about our avoidant nature. It can make us feel like we are cowards, or that we are unequipped to face life. It can make us feel weak or helpless. A lot of these things come from the avoidant type of attitude towards life. And even in literature, we get to read about how, in this sort of colorful or folkloric type of literature, how people make deals with the devil, right? So that they can be more successful and therefore avoid or be avoidant towards a kind of mundane or pedestrian type of life. And the deal that one makes with the devil is one in which one is promised not to have to face a certain discomfort and struggle, and is given a free pass. That's what the devil is giving you. It's giving you a free pass to success or riches or things of that kind. But of course, there's a price to be paid. And the price to be paid is the devil collects your soul at the end. Now, something similar is happening here, except that the deal that we're making with the devil is not as evil or as naive as it sounds. It's not even conscious. Our avoidant tendencies come from very early in life, when we realize that we are sentient, that there are pleasant and unpleasant experiences, and that if we develop ways or gestures or attitudes, sometimes pleasing attitudes, sometimes recalcitrant attitudes, we will be able to manipulate our environment to acquire more comfort and pleasure and security, and to not have to feel discomfort and helplessness and insecurity. So our entire egoic personality grows around this as a vehicle to procure security, comfort, and pleasure. And when we are unable to procure that security, comfort, and pleasure, then we have yet one ace up our sleeve, and that is to become avoidant, to disengage, to depart away from the sensations in the body that are uncomfortable into a mental space in which we can spin our wheels, in which we can create fantasies of how we are a victim, or fantasies about how we are a hero, or fantasies about how the past used to be better, or how the future will be better, or fantasies about how we feel bad or ashamed about things we did in the past, or how we feel scared about how it will be in the future. But regardless of whether the fantasies are pleasant or unpleasant, one thing is for sure: they are all in a mental space. They are in a mental space and time that doesn't exist. And they are all a movement of avoidance, so that you don't have to feel what is actually being felt in the body at this present moment. So what little free will we have in an environment that is constantly in motion, and in which our bodies are also constantly in motion, in which our minds are constantly doing things that we don't want, and the rest of it, we still have a prerogative within, which is we can use our attention in a way that is geared towards facing experience, or geared towards disassociation and avoidance of experience. That's a prerogative that we as humans have. We can gear our attention in a direction of our choosing. Now, by force of habit, our attention might be very badly inclined or very badly pulled on a constant basis towards avoidance. And as I said, it's not because you're a coward. It's not because you made a pact with the devil or the evil ego took over you or whatever. It's a consequence of how we develop early on. And that might be exacerbated by the environment in which you grew, in which either being extremely shrewd and nasty or being super people-pleasing was the one way that you could use to garner more validation and comfort. Perhaps physical comfort, perhaps emotional comfort. And at some point, whatever tactics we've been using start to have a cost that is simply too high. In other words, the devil with whom we made a pact comes to start collecting our soul, so that we feel that we are either getting everything we want and yet are not happy. We cannot savor things. Or we feel like those tactics that worked at getting validation and attention and comfort and the rest of it are just not working anymore. So then we hit an impasse. And we hit an impasse because all we know how to do is try to manipulate, try to act, please, force, plead, bully, or whatever tactic might have been the easiest for us in order to get what we want. So the impasse is either my tactics aren't working anymore, or my tactics are still working, but I'm just unhappy. I can't feel the way I want. Something's wrong. Something's definitely gone terribly wrong. So the devil has started to now collect your soul, right? You can't really feel all right. For some people that happens due to these circumstances. For others, you've always felt that way. You've always felt that something was not right. Now, whatever the case may be, the crux of the matter, the operative factor in this entire situation is the fact that there's a habitual going into the head as opposed to going into perceptual experience and let it fully permeate you. And by fully, I mean that you want to, in an undistinguishable or an unselective type of way, allow pleasurable and unpleasurable experience to be fully soaked, to let it fully permeate you, as opposed to being selective about it. See, this is not about liking things that are dislikable. This is about feeling them completely, as opposed to escaping away from them. The mind, I made a video quite a while ago about this one. The mind confuses acceptance with liking. You don't need to like things in order to accept them for what they are. You could fully accept that they're dislikable. And this is part of the trap. Right? So the ego, when the ego wants to try to be spiritual, it begins to try and like people who are dislikable or like situations that are dislikable. It's not about that. It's simply the orientation to experience them fully, especially in the somatics of the body, because that's what's flaring up. Certain things or people or situations or thoughts or sensations in the body make you feel like you want to crawl out of your own skin. You just don't want to be embodied at that moment. And that's when the escape to the mind becomes the ace up your sleeve. And what we need to learn is to revert that tendency through practice, through becoming acquainted with the unpleasant sensations in the body, and train ourselves so that we can feel them more fully over time, until there is simply no separation between our sense of self and the ongoing sensations of the body, and also the ongoing perceptions of the environment. So you want not so much to confront things that are dislikable, but rather allow yourself to feel them completely and train yourself to dance and imbibe sensations of the body that are less than pleasant, so that you don't feel the need to disconnect and disengage away from them. Because that disengagement, that disconnection, while it provides a temporary escape, which might feel like you got away with something, like you made a deal with the devil and everything is rosy and perfect, it saps your life away. It is a life and joy sapping move of your attention, and the price you pay is very, very heavy. It may start as a mild sense of dissatisfaction. It can become a full-blown case of disassociation, suicidal tendencies, or just plain unhappiness, perhaps depression. And many of them would result and will result in somatic illnesses, which are very often of the autoimmune type. Why? Because the body doesn't know what to do. The mind's not there attending to it. The messages are not getting through from the body to the mind, so that the mind can therefore create messages in return for certain hormones to be generated, for the immune system to act in a correct way. Things are going completely all over the place. That's why hormonal imbalances and immune diseases are rampant, because the mind is not in the body and the body is not in mind. There's a complete disconnect between the two. The system is all over the place. I think I've said enough about it now, but you get the picture, right? So we need to bridge that gap. We need to bridge that distance, and you cannot do it if you keep exercising your prerogative to just leave when the body feels unpleasant. You need to engage. You need to engage back. And of course, when everything is rosy, that's not so difficult. But if things are flaring up, or if your adrenals are generating adrenaline, if you're stressed, of course, this becomes a bigger challenge. So that is the main gist of today's video. It's about this prerogative, this thing that we learn how to do when we are very, very young, this kind of deal that we make with the devil that then becomes an ingrained habit of disassociation away from the body, and how it creates a host of problems, all of which can be addressed by a re-entry, a process of re-engagement with our somatic sensations especially, but also with peripheral perceptions and sense perceptions. I'm very curious to hear about your questions and comments on this one, so do share them in the comments section. And if you think that this content is helpful to others, then your liking, sharing, and subscribing makes the channel a little bit more visible and is very motivating to me. I'll be back with more pretty soon, and until then, cheerio and bye-bye.